My name is Malik Harris, 36 years old, a cybersecurity analyst living on the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia. From the outside, my life looks steady, maybe even enviable. A devoted wife, Tasha, a 5-year-old daughter named Nia, and a career that keeps me tangled in lines of code and invisible threats across the digital world. But that morning, when I stepped onto the porch with a half-cold cup of coffee, the crisp fall air pressed heavy against my chest. Something about it felt wrong, as if the wind itself carried a warning. Within the hour, everything I believed about my family would begin to unravel. Today was the reading of my grandfather's will. Ezekiel Harris, a man larger than life, had built a real estate empire across the South. To many, he was a ruthless tycoon, but to me, he was the only one who ever looked at me with honesty and trust. As a boy, I sat at his knee while he told me stories of growing up poor, of clawing his way out of nothing, of how integrity mattered more than a bank account. Please like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. But since his funeral 2 months ago, that integrity had vanished from our family. I stood in the doorway, coffee cooling in my hand, staring out at a sky too bright, too peaceful for the storm inside me. Since Granddad Ezekiel's funeral, our home had felt like a courtroom. My father, Marvin Harris, spoke of the will as though it were a business contract, his voice clipped and hard. My mother, Evelyn, floated between us, trying to soothe but never quite hiding her trembling hands. My younger brother, Darius, carried a bitterness that leaked from every glance.
Me?
I didn't care about the property lines or bank accounts. I wanted quiet, time with Tasha, laughter with Nia, a family untouched by greed. But peace wasn't in our blood these days. I placed the mug down on the porch and walked toward my charcoal sedan parked at the curb. Today's destination, Attorney Avery Cole's office downtown, where Ezekiel's will would finally be read. My stomach knotted, not from anticipation but dread. I slid into the driver's seat, pressed the ignition button, and jumped at the sharp pounding on my window. It was Mr. Leon, the older man who lived beneath the overpass. His coat hung loose, his eyes wild with urgency. He slammed the glass again, voice hoarse. "Malik, don't start that car. Don't you dare. Would you like me to continue dropping parts 3 through 18 in sequence here, or would you prefer I deliver them 2 or 3 at a time so it's easier to read and follow?" My hand froze on the ignition. "Mr. Leon, what are you talking about?" He pointed with a trembling finger toward the car's underside. "I couldn't sleep last night. Sat on that corner, like always. Around midnight, I saw somebody creeping under your car. Hood pulled tight, face hidden. They messed with something, quick and careful, then ran off." At first, my mind refused to catch up, but the terror in his eyes rooted me to the spot. I crouched low, knees scraping pavement, and peered beneath the car. The sunlight caught it, a slick puddle spreading like black blood. I reached out, fingertips wet with oil. Then I saw it. The brake line, sliced clean through as if with a blade. My chest caved in. If I'd driven off, I'd be a headline. I looked at Mr. Leon, my voice breaking. "You saved me." He shook his head, rough voice softened.
No, son.
"You saved me first, brought food, water, looked me in my eyes like I was human. Today was my turn." I pulled a $50 bill from my wallet, pushing it at him. He shoved it back.
Keep it.
"You gon' need more than money where this road taking you." I stood there trembling, staring at the cut line. My first instinct was to call 911, but I knew better. The people behind this weren't amateurs. They'd cover their tracks before police ever showed up. Who wanted me gone? My father, with his calculating silence? My mother, who cried behind closed doors but never looked me straight in the eye? Or Darius, still aching from a lifetime of comparisons he swore were unfair? I clenched the phone in my hand until my knuckles whitened. No, if I called the cops, whoever did this would vanish into the shadows. If I wanted answers, I needed a plan bigger than survival. I needed them to reveal themselves. The thought hit me sharp and wild. Let them think they succeeded. Let them mourn me or celebrate me, depending on what they really felt. Only then would their masks fall. I scrolled through my phone and called Dr. Andre Collins, my closest friend. He owed Grandad Ezekiel his career. When Andre's mother couldn't afford medical school costs, Ezekiel had stepped in. The line clicked. Malik? It's early, what's wrong? My voice shook, equal parts rage and resolve. Somebody tried to kill me, Dre. And I think it was family. Silence stretched across the line. Then Andre sighed, heavy. Malik, you need to call the police right now. Don't drag me into some. I can't, I snapped, my voice sharper than I meant. If I call them, this ghost disappears. I'll never prove a thing. I need you to help me stage a wreck. Make it look like they won. There was a pause. Do you hear yourself? That's madness. If this blows up, you'll lose more than your life. What about Tasha? What about little Nia? Their names split me open, but I held firm. If I don't do this, Dre, one day I won't make it home to them. This is the only way. Andre's voice dropped to a whisper. You're serious? As death, I said. Another long breath. Then, all right, I'll help. But Malik, you'd better be ready for what comes out of this. When the call ended, I dialed another number. Renee Carter, private investigator, sharp-eyed and relentless. She answered on the first ring. Harris, you never call unless the world's ending. It is, I said flatly. I need you watching my family. Every move, every call, every secret. Somebody tried to murder me, and I intend to find out who. On the other end of the line, Renee went quiet. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a sharp edge. You think it's your own blood? I don't think, Renee. I know. All right, she said. You'll get my best eyes on them. But Malik, once we start digging, there's no going back. You sure you're ready to see what's buried? I rubbed my forehead, a wave of exhaustion hitting me. I don't have a choice. After we hung up, I leaned against the porch railing. The morning air felt heavier now, pressing against my lungs. In my head, the plan twisted together like tangled wire. Andre would stage the wreck, Renee would shadow my family, and I'd vanish into the shadows, letting them think I was broken or gone. I stepped back inside. Tasha stood in the kitchen, a knife in her hand, slicing bread. Her eyes lifted to mine, worry written across her face. Baby, you all right? You look pale. Nia's little voice rose from the table. Daddy, where you going? Can I come? Her innocence sliced deeper than any knife. I forced a smile, bent down, kissed her forehead. Daddy's just got a meeting, baby girl. I'll be back soon. But even as I said it, my chest ached with the lie. I hugged Tasha tighter than usual, inhaling the sweet coconut oil in her hair. She frowned, pressing her hand to my chest. Malik, talk to me. I'm fine. I lied, my throat tight. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes, but she let it go, maybe out of love, maybe out of fear. I walked out before the weight of their presence broke me. Instead of driving my sabotage sedan, I called for a rideshare and headed to Grady Memorial, where Andre had arranged a private room far from curious eyes. When I got there, he was waiting, sleeves rolled up, jaw clenched. This is insane, he muttered, but we'll make it look real. I'll prep blood bags, a crash team, and a cover story. Once the ambulance arrives, you'll look like you barely made it. We set up a video call with Renee. Her sharp brown face filled the laptop screen, voice steady as a surgeon's scalpel. Here's the deal. I'll track your folks, and Darius, once word spreads you've been hurt. They'll show their true colors, Malik. You just sit tight and bleed pretty. The words chilled me, but I nodded. It was time to die, at least on paper. That evening, after a mechanic quietly repaired the severed brake line, I drove the car to a deserted stretch on the edge of the city. The trees leaned in on both sides, their branches like skeletal hands in the dimming light. Perfect spot for a staged tragedy. Andre stood nearby, hidden in an unmarked van, monitoring every move. You sure about this? His voice crackled through the earpiece. No turning back, I whispered. I jammed a brick against the gas pedal, stepped out, and let the car lurch forward. Tires screeched, the engine roared, and the sedan slammed into an ope with a thunderous crunch. Metal crumpled, smoke hissed from the hood. The sound echoed through the silence of the back road. For a moment, it felt like I was already dead. Minutes later, sirens wailed in the distance. A fake ambulance crew, Andre's trusted colleagues, arrived. I laid on the ground, eyes shut, body limp as they smeared synthetic blood across my skin. Victim unresponsive, weak pulse, possible clinical death. One of them called out for the world to hear. And just like that, Malik Harris ceased to exist. They wheeled me into a restricted wing at Grady, a room stripped bare except for cameras Andre had rigged to monitor the hall outside. I lay still on the gurney, wires taped to my chest, fake vitals flashing on a monitor. Every detail had been staged. On the screen, I watched as my family arrived. My father, Marvin, in a sharp navy suit, looked pale but composed. My mother, Evelyn, clutched her pearls, eyes red but dry. Darius trailed behind, head low, but his gaze darted everywhere. They sat in the waiting area, pretending grief. But when the nurse left, Marvin leaned in close, his voice a whisper the camera barely caught. His eyes glinted, sharp and cold. Darius smirked faintly, then dropped it quick. Evelyn dabbed her cheeks with a silk handkerchief, but no tears fell. From my hidden room, my heart sank like lead. They weren't worried I might die. They were calculating what came next if I didn't wake up. And then, like a knife to my chest, Tasha appeared holding Nia's tiny hand. My daughter's voice cracked through the feed. "Mommy, is Daddy gone forever?" I almost tore the wires off my chest to run to them. But I couldn't.
Not yet.
Tasha sat in the waiting room, Nia curled in her lap, whispering promises that I would come back. Watching them on that flickering feed tore me apart. They deserved truth, not this cruel theater. Andre entered quietly, eyes full of concern. "They're breaking Malik. How much longer you think you can keep this up?" I swallowed hard. "Until I know who did it. If I stop now, the next time might not just be me. It could be them." On the screen, Marvin leaned closer to Evelyn and Darius. Their whispers sharpened. I couldn't hear words, but I knew the language, schemes, not sorrow. My fists clenched tight. Later that afternoon, the three of them left together, faces stiff with false grief. Renee's text buzzed my phone moments later. "They're on the move.
Downtown."
La Sirene Restaurant. You know that spot."
Of course I did.
La Sirene was where my family went when they didn't want ears around. Soundproof booths, waiters who looked the other way. I messaged back, "Stay close. Record everything." Watching Tasha and Nia cry while my family plotted in secret filled me with fire. I wasn't just going to uncover the truth. I was going to make them pay. Hours later, Renee sent me the first recording. She had slipped into La Sirene, posing as a solo diner at the next booth. Her pen-shaped recorder captured every word. I sat in the hospital room with earbuds in, trembling as the audio bled into my ears. Marvin's voice was low but steady. "If Malik doesn't make it, the estate folds back to us. We need to act fast, before Avery Cole ties our hands." Evelyn's whisper followed. "Yes. The longer we wait, the more questions. We can't afford that." And then Darius, bitter venom in every syllable. The guy did his part. Breaks were cut. Soon as Malik's gone, we take what's rightfully ours. Grandpa always gave him more. Not this time. I ripped the earbuds out, chest heaving. My own blood. Plotting my death like a business merger. Renee's text pinged again. "Got clean audio. Leaving now. I'll tail them if they move." I sank into the chair, staring at the ceiling. Betrayal burned worse than fire. It wasn't just money they wanted. It was erasure. They wanted to erase me. But I wasn't gone yet. And the storm coming for them would be mine. That night, Renee sent me photos. Darius had slipped away from Marvin and Evelyn, driving his black SUV toward the abandoned industrial zone south of the city. She tailed him from a distance. Through her lens, I saw him meet with a hulking bald man inked from neck to wrist, menace in every movement. Darius handed him a thick envelope. The handshake between them was brief, but heavy with intent. The man disappeared into shadows. Darius drove off. Renee's caption under the photo: name's Vince Malone. Record long as a rap sheet. Muscle for hire. Your brother's lapdog. I stared at the image until my vision blurred. Memories of us playing basketball in the yard, laughing until we collapsed, collided with this new reality. My brother, standing with a criminal, plotting my end. When had envy turned into hate, I called Renee, my voice low and hard. We need Malone to talk. If he names Darius outright, we've got them nailed. She chuckled dry. Men like Malone only talk for money. Or when they're scared. Then let's give him both. For the first time since this nightmare began, a grim smile tugged at my lips. The hunt was just beginning. 2 nights later, Renee and I walked into a seedy bar off Bankhead Highway. Neon flickered overhead, smoke hung thick, and the smell of stale beer clung to the air. At a corner table sat Vince Malone, a bottle in front of him, tattoos crawling up his arms like vines. I approached slowly, every muscle tight. His eyes widened, then narrowed. Well. Thought you was dead, boy. I leaned down, voice cold. Not dead. Not yet. But you're gonna help me find out who wanted me that way. He sneered, taking a swig. And why would I? I dropped a wad of bills on the table. Because I'll pay you double what they offered. And because this conversation is being recorded. You talk, you walk. You stay silent, you go down with them. His eyes flicked to Renee's hidden camera light. He cursed under his breath, then leaned in. Your brother Darius. He came to me right here. Offered $2,000 up front to cut your breaks. Said he'd give me 3 more once you were gone. Called it family business. The words seared into my brain like fire. Family business. Blood plotting blood. Malone leaned back, grin crooked, teeth stained. Don't look so shocked. Ain't the first time a brother wanted another out the way. Happens all the time. I wanted to break his jaw right there, but Renee's hand brushed my arm, grounding me. Appreciate your honesty, she said flatly. Malone shrugged, pocketed the cash, and sauntered off. As soon as he was gone, my phone buzzed. A message from Renee's associate already running a background check. Bank trail shows cash withdrawals in Darius's name. Timeline matches Malone's payments. We had him. But that wasn't enough. I wanted Marvin and Evelyn too. Their whispers at Lost Irene were damning, but I needed the law to choke them in evidence, not suspicion. That night, Renee and I walked into the police station with recordings, photos, and reports. The detective on duty listened, jaw tight, eyes darkening. This is heavy, he said, but airtight. We'll move when the moment's right. You want the takedown public? Yes, I said, voice like stone. At the will reading. They'll think they're winning, and that's when I want them in cuffs. The detective nodded slowly. All right, Mr. Harris. We'll be ready. The morning of the second will reading, I stood outside Attorney Avery Cole's office, nerves steel hard and shaking all at once. Inside, my family waited, expecting to carve Ezekiel's legacy like scavengers over a carcass. Avery greeted me with a tight nod. You sure about this? As I've ever been. We stepped into the polished conference room. Marvin's jaw dropped. Evelyn gasped, clutching her chest. Darius shot up, face pale, stammering. No, you were supposed to be
dead.
I finished coldly, taking my seat across from them. Sorry to disappoint. The room buzzed with shocked whispers from distant relatives. I placed a folder and a flash drive on the table. Avery plugged it in. Malone's voice filled the room, grainy but clear. Your brother Darius paid me $2,000 up front. Wanted those breaks cut. Said Grandpa gave Malik everything, and it was time he took it back. Next came the Lost Irene recording, Marvin's cold calculations, Evelyn's sharp whispers, Darius's bitter venom. The silence after was suffocating. Faces around the table turned to stone. Then the door opened. 2 detectives stepped in, badges glinting. Marvin Harris. Evelyn Harris. Darius Harris. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. The air in the room shattered. Marvin tried to rise, sputtering protests, but the detective shoved him back down, cuffs snapping tight. Evelyn sobbed, clutching her pearls as if they could shield her. Darius stood frozen, sweat dripping, lips trembling. "This is a mistake," Marvin barked. The detective's eyes cut him down. "The mistake was thinking you'd get away with it." I sat motionless, watching the people who raised me, my blood being led away in chains. A storm of rage, grief, and relief warred in my chest. Avery touched my shoulder gently. "You did what had to be done, Malik. Ezekiel would be proud." But pride wasn't what I felt. Just a hollow ache where family used to live. News spread fast. By evening, headlines screamed across Atlanta. Harris family scandal. Son, parents charged in murder plot over fortune. The empire Ezekiel built with sweat and iron was dragged through mud in a single day. Strangers whispered. Neighbors stared. And me? I went home. Tasha opened the door, eyes wide, tears streaming. Nia ran into my arms, squeezing me as if she'd never let go. "I'm back," I whispered, voice breaking. "And I'm never leaving again." Days blurred into weeks. Marvin, Evelyn, and Darius sat in cells while prosecutors unraveled their greed. Bank trails, audio files, Malone's testimony, layer after layer proved their guilt. By law, they lost their right to Ezekiel's estate. The final will reading was brief. Only a handful of relatives showed up. Avery read Ezekiel's words with steady reverence. The wealth, land, and properties were to be divided equally among his children and grandchildren. Equally. I stared at the paper in disbelief. All of this, the plots, the betrayal, the bloodlust, had been for nothing. They would have had more than enough if they'd only trusted Ezekiel's vision. Instead, their greed stripped them of everything. By default, as the last heir untainted, I became sole beneficiary. It felt less like victory, more like ashes. That night, I sat with Tasha on the porch, Nia chasing fireflies in the yard. I told her everything, every dark detail. She listened, gripping my hand, tears in her eyes. "You did what you had to," she whispered.
For us.
"For her." I nodded, though the weight in my chest didn't lift. Ezekiel's words echoed. "The worth of family isn't money. It's how we treat each other." The sun broke through clouds the next morning, gold spilling over the neighborhood. I stepped outside, breathing in air that finally felt clean. Ezekiel's estate was mine, yes. But what he really left me wasn't brick or land. It was the hard truth. Greed can rot blood, and legacy is more than wealth. It's values carried forward. I thought of Marvin's cold eyes, Evelyn's false tears, Darius's smirk. Their faces would haunt me, but not define me. Inside, Tasha called Nia in for breakfast. My daughter's laughter rang out, pure and unbroken. That sound was worth more than all the property in Georgia. I whispered to the sky, to Ezekiel. "I'll live your legacy the right way. I'll protect what's real." Then I turned back toward my home. My true inheritance. Not the empire, not the money, but the family that chose love over betrayal. And as the door closed behind me, I knew one thing with iron certainty. Justice had come, but so had peace. Thank you for watching. Please like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more of the stories.